Hi, boys and girls. So today I'll be reading the next chapter in our read aloud. This chapter is chapter 9 and it's called A Plan. So remember when we had left off yesterday, the swamp monsters, Jake and Dominic, were in the cafeteria with their friends. There had just been a food fight. And Dominic, I'll show you the picture, had been kind of slowly turning back to a swamp monster, which isn't good. So when this ended, there was some sort of plan in place. Also, keep in mind, Dominic and Ted were kind of like getting into some trouble together, not really making the best choices. After school, the five friends met at Tommy's house while Dominic went home with Ted. We need to get you and Dominic back into the water, Emily told Jake. I know you've had another carrot, but I'm still worried about you being out of the swamp for so long. Do you think it will hurt you? Jake shrugged his shoulders. I don't know. This is uncharted swamp monster territory. Ryan had to smile. I guess you're like a swamp monster experiment. Nothing like this came in my junior science kit, Frank told his friends. Tell us your idea, Jake, Emily suggested. Tommy put some cookies on the kitchen table and the kids helped themselves while Jake explained his plan. We have to make being a human seem like a terrible thing, Jake said. Frank poured himself a glass of milk. What are you talking about? He asked as cookie crumbs dribbled out of his mouth. I get it, Emily said. If we make being a human feel like the most awful thing in the world, Dominic won't like it anymore. Exactly how do we do that? Tommy asked. Jake picked up an Oreo and bit into it. It tasted so good he could hardly think straight. Getting Dominic not to like things like this would not be easy. Jake finished chewing and answered, We can make a list of all of the horrible things you can think of and then read it to Dominic. So, what they're trying to do, so Dominic loves being a person. He doesn't want to be Swamp Monster anymore. So they're trying to make it seem like it's almost maybe like not good to be a person. They're trying to tell him all of the sort of um, bad things or the downside of being a person. It's worth a try, Emily said. I've got a pencil, Tommy said. He wrote awful things at the top of the paper, at the top of a piece of white lined paper. So he wrote the word awful things. So just to tell the awful things about being a person. Homework and tests, Ryan offered, and the kids nodded in agreement. Chores, Emily said. We need really bad stuff, Tommy said, like wars. Jake shook his head. Dominic actually likes fighting, and we have to do chores in the swamp too. My dad says taxes are the worst, Ryan suggested. The phone rang and Tommy answered it. Sure, he said into the phone. So here all the kids are on the table eating cookies, and they're trying to make a whole list of just the horrible, awful things about being a person. And of course, they're kids, like you guys. So the things that they don't like are things that you might not like, chores, homework, tests in school, that sort of thing. After Tommy hung up, he looked at his friends and said, We're sunk. Dominic is spending the night with Ted. We won't see him until tomorrow. There's no telling what kind of trouble those two will cause tonight, Emily said. How are we going to tell him what's going on our list? I don't know. I don't think this list is going to work, Ryan told his friends. I think we need to do something else, something bigger. Like what? Tommy asked. I think we need to get his carrot supply away from him, Frank said. Emily slapped her hand on the table. That's it, she shouted. But how? We can't just grab it, Ryan said. Haven't you seen how big Dominic is? Emily said. And you already know. Oh, sorry. Ryan said, We can just grab it. We can just grab it, Ryan said. Haven't you seen how big Dominic is? Emily said. And you already know how mean Ted is. Dominic can be kind of mean too, Jake added. We'll have to swipe it when they aren't looking, Tommy said. We have to go over to Ted's house, Jake said firmly, and we have to do it tonight. So that's the end of the chapter. So they realize their plan of listing all the awful things about being a human or a webless creature won't work because he's having a sleepover at Ted's house. So They're going to try to kind of sneak away his carrot supply so that he will have to turn back into a swamp monster. He won't have a choice. All right. Oh boy, these chapter titles are getting worse and worse. Chapter 10 is called Real Monsters. So I wonder what real monsters we will come across in that chapter. All right. I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.